really has her fingers on just about everything. I'm seeing a fourth person here, and that is Kathy Nilsson. Is that right?
Yes, I'm a councillor.
Hello, Kathy. Hello, Kathy.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. And I understand that you are a councillor at Randwick Council.
Correct.
Can't hear anything.
And you will be joining. Us in terms of telling us something about each of these two applications today.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. Now, could I just explain to the people who are...
excuse me, Chair, there's another councillor, Michael Olive. He's also wanting to speak on the second item.
Yes, no, I understand that, and I was going to go through that at that time.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, so it's just a bit of a process. I'll now ask for the first objector. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I'll ask Councillor Kathy Nilsson if she would introduce the comments of Randwick Council for 3 Surfside Road, Clovelly. Thank you.
And can I just say something, Chair, that I've just had a text message from the objector, Kay Robinson, saying that they can see us, but they can't hear anything. So they can see the panel, but no sound. So I'm not sure whether our officers know that and can correct that, please.
Yeah, there obviously was something wrong, because even before, when you couldn't hear me, I tested my microphone, and when I hit it, it then muted, and then I unmuted it, and you still couldn't hear me. So I don't know what that's about, but I think we've got... I did ask Angela Manahan whether Tony Ravetsky and Scott Cox were there. So we do have 2 senior Randwick Council officers. I don't know if it's quite up their alleyway, though, to fix something like this, but I might ring Angela and see if she could do something. Just one moment. Just one moment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Karen Duggan. It's just I was using a remote mic and I couldn't hear you. I unplugged the remote mic, left it with computer audio, and it's now okay. I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay, so I've just...
but someone else might have the same problem. That's all.
Okay. That might have been it. Okay, so Councillor Nilsson, I was wondering if you might, make those introductory comments and anything that you may wish to say on behalf of Randwick Council.
Thank you. Oh, it's on my behalf, because I'm speaking as a Randwick councillor on behalf of residents. I'm just urging the panel to agree with the recommendation for refusal on D36/22, 3 Surfside Avenue, Clovelly. The design is totally inappropriate for this location, as clearly set out in the recommendation for refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nilsson. Okay, so we've got our hello, Ms. Duggan. I now meet you in relation to this particular number 1 item on our public meeting today. Would you like to address the panel now? We're all listening to you, and we can see you. I can certainly see you.
And can you see the screen?
You now have the floor.
Can you see the shared screen?
I can. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. As Councillor Nielsen's already said, there are a lot of objections to this proposal. I speak for a number of the residents, and a number of the issues came up. I put them under headings. The first was the heritage value of the current premises, and that perhaps council should give thought to, in fact, listing it. It is an early Art Deco and represents the transition from Federation to Edwardian architecture, and is actually a very good structure. The second lot of problems that people drew attention to with the ramp driveway, and virtually every one mentioned this. There's alienation of public land to private use was a major problem. Inadequate clearances over the lower footpath These were the actual clearance was misrepresented in the DA, complete obstruction of the upper footway to pedestrian traffic. The ramp gradient exceeds the maximum allowed. There's traffic hazards from exiting cars, loss of parking spaces, no specified weight limits, and there was considerable concern about danger of collapse. Inadequate barriers in the segment over the lower footpath, which could allow a car to crash over. It's probably going to become a skateboarding venue, and that would also be a hazard for those people going over the side. And unacceptable aesthetics in the design of the ramp. The proposed site of the development was a problem. The FSR exceeds that allowed for a dual occupancy in the LEP by at least 10%, possibly up to 15%. The wall heights exceed those allowed by 1.5 metres. Pool deck is well above 1.8 metres at fence level, and inadequate side offsets for neighbouring properties, effects on the amount of drainage and the pattern to stormwater, and there's no obvious connection to the stormwater drain on the southern boundary, and there's inadequate rainwater tanks for the proposed hard surface area. Then we come to overshadowing. There's at least 3-4 properties to the west that will have significant overshadowing, and 4 properties possibly more to the east with significant overshadowing. There's also a loss of financial amenity in terms of number 5 Surfside that have solar panels which would be completely overshadowed, and it's not obvious from the shadow diagram to the west, but the solar panels on number 9 Keith Street could also be overshadowed. Loss of amenity in terms of increased noise level due to the location of the proposed pool pumps, and the other thing is the loss of amenity due to the proposed pool decks and contiguous living areas being so significantly above the fence level that they look straight into other premises. The last part concerns the application itself. There was a failure to address the ethical anti-corruption questions, in specifically those regarding political donations and conflict of interest were not answered. And there is some confusion as to who the actual developer would be, and that also raises some problems. With documents prepared for Mr. Gao, an ASIC company extract being provided suggesting a recently listed company, Big Yellow Development, with Mr. Gao as the sole director. However, the DA form appears to be the applicant on the DA form appears to be someone with no relationship to either. So it's unclear who would be responsible for this development. And given the recent publicity on those issues, one would, as a resident, would be concerned. So all in all, the residents are very much against this, and I would gratefully hope that the council would reject it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duggan. The members of the panel, I might ask Ms. Ward if she has any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Duggan.
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, and I'd ask the community rep, Mio Chow. Ms. Chow, do you have any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Duggan?
No thanks. No thanks.
Okay.
The presentation was clear.
Okay, very good. And Mr. Patterson, I'd ask if you would have any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Duggan.
No questions. Clear presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Duggan, I was wondering, would it be too much to ask you if you could send a copy of that presentation to the executive planner of Randwick Council, Miss Angela Manahan, M-A-N-A-H-A-N. Just one copy would do. I understand everything is paperless there, so one good copy would be just fine.
Okay, that's fine. I did forward a PDF yesterday to
Good.
Nadia Magistrate.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not at the council, of course. I'm outside the council.
No, Magistral, sorry.
Yes, we have a copy, Chair.
Oh, good. Okay. But is that you, Scott, or
Correct.
is it Tony?
No, yeah, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Scott. All right. So no one has to ask questions. I'm the same as the other members. It was a perfectly clear presentation. I have no questions that I need to ask you, Ms. Duggan. So I think that we'll now move on to the applicant,
Yes.
Astra Wu, if she is there and ready to present. Well, that's the person who's put herself down as the applicant for 3 Surfside.
Hello. Hi.
Is that person there?
No, my name is Emma Lee. Astra, she's off sick today, so I'll speak on her behalf.
Could you give me your name, please? And do you mind so much if you spell it out, just in case?
Emma, E-double-M-A.
M-E? R-A?
E-double-M-A.
Oh, yes.
Yep, our surname is Lee, L-double-E.
Ina Lee, is that right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And Ina Lee, what's your association with the application?
Oh, I'm the director of the architectural company. So Astra Wu is the applicant of the DA, but she's the applicant on behalf of the company. And Mr. Gao is the owner of the property.
Okay, so we've got Mr. Gao, who's the owner of the property.
Yes.
We have director of the architects, ASA Studio.
Yep.
Just a moment, ASA Studio. We're getting this down. And Astra Wu, she is director of what?
She is also director of ASA Studio.
Okay, she's a director of ASA Studio.
Yeah.
So we've got that down there. Okay. Is there anyone that you know is also involved with this application?
No, that's all.
Okay, so is it fair to say Mr. Gao is the owner and the applicant of the property?
Yep.
Is it true to say that the director of ASA Studio, who are the architects, is yourself, Ina Lee, and also a director of ASA Studio is Astra Wu?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got that clear now, have we?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you like to make a presentation now?
So Astra, obviously she's the person who deal with the project from the start. So she's off sick. So I'm just here. My job is to listen to what the council has to say, and then give feedback based on the presentation and just that. So first of all,
Ms. Duggan, just a moment. I'll just interpose for a moment, if you don't mind, Ms. Lee. Ms. Duggan, have you sent a copy of the presentation to Astra Wu or to ASA Architects?
No, we haven't.
No, because my presentation went to council, as did my original objections.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. No, that's all right. Miss Lee, if you wish to have a copy of the presentation, you'll have to approach Randwick Council. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can request that.
Okay. If you want to get a copy, you'll have to approach Randwick Council. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm sorry for interposing. Would you like to continue?
Yeah. So based on the presentation, it's not clear what's the reason for refusing. Just like broadly, the structure is not appropriate.
Sorry.
I'm listening to your presentation. This is not a debate. I'm listening to your presentation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we so based on the GFA, so the FSR 0.521 is actually not correct. So we are proposing 0.621, which complies with under clause 4.4, bracket 2A is 0. So we have the exemption on the FSR 0621, which complies. And then yeah, I don't. So we actually we just need a more clear direction to like how is there anything that we can modify to get approved?
Is there anything else that you'd like to say in support of your objection?
The LEP is clear that the FSR in dual occupancy can be a maximum of 0.5.
Yeah, can you please look into clause 4.4? These exemptions.
No, we won't be looking into that.
Oh, not now. Yeah.
No, that's right. So I'm just asking for
the
the objector, Ms. Duggan. She's given a very detailed presentation. Your presentation lacks any sort of detail. It's all been dealt with in the report. You haven't referred to the report at all.
Yeah,
the report, Miss Lee, is very detailed and it tells you exactly, but blow by blow, what is wrong with that particular development application. It's very detailed, and you haven't answered any of the issues. It's we've noted that so far.
Yeah. So is there anything we can do to amend the design to be in favor of the council?
Well, I can't say anything at the moment, but what I can say to you is that you do have time now to answer any questions. Refer to the report. Let us know any issues in the report that you say is inaccurate. This is your one opportunity to make oral presentations, and it's a very good opportunity, and I would suggest that you make them now. We're not deliberating at this point in time. We're taking down exactly what you're saying, and we'll be deliberating as soon as possible after the cessation of this particular session with you and the other interested party. So is there anything else that you'd like to say in relation to support the application?
I guess there's nothing I can say.
Okay. Now, other panel members, is there anything that you would like to ask Miss Lee, who was representing the architects, ASA architects?
Yes, I wouldn't mind asking a question if I may.
Is that Julie Ward that I'm hearing?
Yes, Julie Savett Ward. Yes.
Thank you very much, Julie. Would you go ahead?
Thank you. Miss Lee.
Yes.
Your council did approach you during this process, or not you personally, but the architectural company and indeed the applicant, to indicate that the floor space ratio and the height of building were both breaching the development standards. If a proposal breaches, as you would know as an architect, you need to submit a clause 4.6 written request in order to address why you are breaching a control. If those written requests are not submitted with the application, the determining authority, being us, have no power to approve a development, even if all the other elements of the proposal were satisfactory. Council did mention in their documentation to you to address these issues. I'm just wondering why it wasn't addressed at that earlier stage.
Again, I wasn't involved much in this
yes, okay.
strategy.
All right.
But I'm just looking at the drawings now. Is not branching the maximum height of 9.5?
The documentation in front of us indicates that it does breach it. Anyway, this is not a debate, so it is unfortunate that Miss Wu is unwell today. But yeah, thank you, Chair. I have no additional questions.
Unless you have something more to say, Ms. Lee, we'll be concluding.
Chair, I've got one.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Madam Chair,
Mr.
just one
Patterson?
question. Yes, thank
Yep.
you. Just for Ms. Lee,
Yes.
we're referring to your practice as an architectural practice. Are any of your directors registered architects?
Yes.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mr. Patterson is asking if Miss Astra Wu is a registered and certified architect.
Yes.
Okay, and you're of the same status?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I have another question, just asking on behalf of my client.
I'm listening, Ms. Lee. Thank you.
Yes. Just make sure you're with me.
No, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Thank you.
So, would council give us suggestions of what to amend, or do we have, or is the complete design is not acceptable? Like, is there ways that, like, for example, if we minimize the GFA and then lower the height, provide more setbacks, will that be acceptable?
Ms. Lee, I get the impression that you haven't read the report. Have you read the report on this?
We haven't got any report. Which report?
When I say the report, have you, in fact, been asked to have the opportunity of making changes? Do you have any correspondence from Randwick Council that has alerted you to some problems with this application and that they gave you time to respond?
Previous meeting? I think this is the first meeting we have.
No. I beg your pardon. Okay, so when, just as a matter of process, when there is, problems, whatever they are, height problems, ratio problems, whatever, with a particular development application, Randwick Council, like every, professional council, usually goes through the entire process. They do a very good investigation. And when there are issues, they actually raise them with the applicant and they give them an opportunity to answer. It's that question that I'm asking you. Do you have any written correspondence from Randwick Council that?
Not yet. That's my question as well. Will we get a written request for the information? RFI?
Well, as far as I know, and as far as the panel knows, all those issues were raised with you.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay.
So
we'll get
if you haven't got it there, perhaps it's an issue between you and Ms. Wu.
Okay. Will we have a time indication when we'll get the RFI?
I think the time limitation passed about 6 months ago. Although we're always ready to accept late applications and we'll certainly late correspondence if you think that's the way of doing it. But we didn't receive anything in writing from you. Did you send anything in writing to us for today's meeting, or were you just going to rely on your oral presentation?
No, I just got just Astra just sent me the link for today's meeting, and then I follow up the email track. It says just council asking if she would like to attend the meeting, and then she said yes. So I can't help you in your relationship with Ms. Wu. So you have nothing that you can present further in the meeting today? No. Okay. I just want to know what information we'll get after the meeting. Well, you'll have to ask Randwick Council that. Okay, they'll tell you about the process. Now, Mr. Patterson, did I interrupt you in part of your question that you were asking, Ms. Lee? I'm sorry about that. Would you like to finish?
Yes, the Architects Registration Board, to call yourself an architect, you must be registered, the New South Wales Board of Architects. And you can't go around calling yourself an architect if you're not registered. And typically, you would have to show that on your drawings. You'd have to show your registration number.
Mm-hmm.
You can't call yourself an architect unless you've got registered. So
Yeah.
I think it's just an important point of the profession. You know, it's very important. It's the same as you can't call yourself a lawyer if you're not accredited.
Yeah.
So your drawing should show
That
that.
will make sure to send that information out.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry. Who is talking now?
Scott Cox.
Thank you. Scott, would you go ahead, please? Thank you very much.
Yes, I just need to, just for the panel's information, that an RFI was issued by Mr. Mithen, the planning consultant, on the 2nd of February 2022.
A planning what? Could you explain that, please?
Yes, a request for further information in terms of issues with the current application was issued by the assessing officer in February of this year.
I thought so. I assumed it was about 6 months ago was the timeline. So,
and that was sent to ASA Studio.
Yeah, ASA Studio, and I would have thought so. So your opportunity in answer to that question you asked me, Ms. Lee, was that's your answer. It was sent in February of this year. So whatever you did or didn't do following from that notification is a matter for you to take up with your employer.
Just a question, Chair.
Yes.
Actually, I just want to ask. I'm
sorry.
Stewart?
Is this Miss Mia?
Yes, it's Mia speaking, the community representative.
Mia Chow, Miss Lee. She's our community. She's our community rep on the local planning panel, and she's going to ask you a question now.
Actually, I just want to ask. Is that Stewart who just spoke from the council?
I think it was Scott.
Scott.
Oh, Scott. Sorry. I remember. Sorry, Scott.
You're close.
The business papers that we've received, I assume it is also online for
Correct.
everyone who's interested in the matter to download it and read it, right?
That's right, Leo. It's on the council meeting website, the agenda.
Right. And do you also send a copy of these business papers to the applicant?
We notify and we let them know of the link.
Right. So Ms. Lee or Ms. Wu would have had the opportunity to read all the information that we as a panel were given as well. Correct. Before the meeting.
Correct.
Right. So there must be a communication problem between Ms. Wu and Ms. Lee then. So Ms. Lee, you asked several times during this meeting the same question, which is what can we do to improve the application? And actually all the comments that council has made were in this business paper. That your colleague has received a link for. So you could have read it all before this meeting and state your case now. So maybe it is a miscommunication. I'm quite surprised you don't seem to know.
I don't see any record here on a folder as well. I think there is miscommunication. I might double check.
I think the miscommunication is not between Randwick and the applicant. I think it's between you and Miss Wu. That's not our issue, and that we don't have jurisdiction between your relationship, your professional relationship with Miss Wu. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Is there anybody on the panel or from Randwick Council who'd like to ask Miss Lee any questions? Okay. Thank you, Miss Lee. We've completed this. In due course, you'll hear of our determination. Okay, so Randwick Council, could you conclude this meeting, please? Thank you.
Chair,
yes.
We will now consider 342 Arden Street, Coogee, will we not?
Yes, we will. We'll go straight on to that. So if Miss Lee would like to turn off her
so do I just leave?
Microsoft link. We'd appreciate that. We're dealing with another application. Okay?
Thanks. Okay, bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, Julie. Our next matter, are we all set to run? We'll listen again to Councillor Kathy Nielsen again. She will introduce us, make some introductory comments in relation to 342 Arden Street. Is she still here?
I am. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, panel. I agree with the original decision, and therefore I do not support the deletion of condition 3A. It was noted in the Heritage Office's report on the original DA 123/2021 that a first floor addition at the rear of the dwelling, its scale and form is considered to dominate and visually detract from the setting of the adjacent heritage item. And the neighbour owner of the Heritage House Verona, in her submission, has shown very pictorially and clearly the personal amenity impact and the intrusion of the design and bulk of the DA on the heritage property Verona. And she'll elaborate more on that in her submission. But I think it's a very strong position that she makes there. In the applicant's submission, on page 4 of their submission, that stated that the proposed siting of the addition does not generate any adverse visual bulk impacts to the other neighbour to the north, addressed to 340 Arden Street, nor when viewed from any surrounding public or private vantage point, and they say see attached photos. It seems to me rather insulting for the applicant to use the trees in the neighbour's garden, namely Verona, to prove that the extension would not be visible from the street, Oberon Street. So I urge the panel not to support the deletion of condition 3A. That's my comments in a nutshell, please, Chair.
Thank you, Ms Nielsen. Now, I understand Councillor Michael Olive has something to say as well. Thank you. Mr Olive, are you there?
Thanks very much, Chair. I concur with Councillor Nielsen. I'm against removing the consent condition 3A. I think that because of its impact on heritage item Verona, 340 Arden Street, I think that this increases the bulk surrounding that particular item, and I think it detracts from that item. I think if you the heritage planner is only considered from the street, but I think that you have to consider the innate value of heritage items and also from the backyard perspective. And I think that, you know, sort of our heritage items, our heritage buildings are part of a narrative story of the area. So if we go ahead and just isolate and surround them by bulk, I think that has an impact on our own story and also on the particular heritage items. I see that, you know, sort of in the council documentation that they reference sections 4.55 and 4.15 from the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act, and that's about the environmental impacts on the social or the social impacts on the locality and public interest. And I think that this particular item, because it's just increasing the surrounding bulk, is against the public interest, and that's the position that I'm arguing.
Thank you very much, Mr Olive, for those presentations. I appreciate it very much. Okay, so now we have our first objector, which of course is the owner, Kathleen Robinson. Ms Robinson, are you there? Kathleen Robinson should be there. I can see the initials, but I'm wondering if she can hear us.
Kathleen,
you're muted.
Yeah, you're on mute, Kathleen, if you can hear us.
Can she hear us? Can she see us, I wonder?
Yes.
Kathleen, is that you?
6 of you, 7 of you.
Oh, thank you, Kathleen. We can now hear you. Would you like to make your would you like to speak to your objections to the panel now?
Yes, well, can you see me? That's what
I can see you, and we can now hear you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I'm just referring to the main points in my submission.
Thank you.
that asks the panel to consider three things: the extension at the second story of number 342 Arden Street, the colour scheme of that proposal, and also the window position in the kitchen. Earlier objections on scale, bulk and streetscape were approved, but I was relieved that the second story extension was refused by condition 3A. The 89-metre second floor is not warranted as compared with the adjoining semi, which does adhere to the predominant rear setback and as conditioned in the original determination. The photos show the overbearing bulk if this extension to the rear is approved. The amenity of my garden for entertainment and relaxing would be ruined. My guests and I love to sit in the Federation-style gazebo at the end of my garden, which abuts the boundary of number 342 and 231 behind. My overall aim is to protect the heritage of this home for the future. At my age, there is a limit on the number of years I will be here. My late husband and I bought this property deliberately because of its heritage listing, immaculate restoration and setting, in the belief that that listing provided protection against inappropriate development. Development around it, sorry. We committed to maintaining the property for the community in Coogee despite the additional requirements and expense of keeping it to the standard. I was shocked and disappointed to find the approval of DA 123201 allowed the design, bulk and streetscape presentation contravene several controls which were pointed out in the objections and submissions. I cannot understand why Council is further prepared to ditch its own commitments via the development and environmental controls and public statements as regards heritage and curtilage, as set out in my submission. Right now, the comprehensive planning proposal expounds on all the new heritage initiatives and the protections and safeguards for heritage properties in this LPA. So why is Verona now threatened by Council's assessment to approve DA 123201A? I'm requesting the panel to refuse any extension beyond the predominant rear setback of my home, 344 Arden Street, second story, 346 Arden Street and the rest of the block. This means to retain condition 3A. I'm also requesting the panel to modify the stark white colour of the external walls of the proposal. There should be adequate insulation installed in those walls. Clarification of the colour effect of the ground floor brick treatment is required. I'm asking that the new windows in the kitchen be relocated further to the west to protect the rear doorway privacy in my home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. I might ask the panel now, and indeed the councillors, do you have any, first of all, the panel, do you have any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Robinson?
No questions, thank you.
That's Julie Ward. Yes, thank you, Julie. And Mio Chow, do you have any questions?
I just would like to ask about the plants on your side. They are at the moment quite tall already. What kinds of plants is that?
They're natives, and as
it's a lily pilly, I think. It looks like
just
a
lily pilly. Is it just lily pilly?
It looks like.
yes.
Right.
And
right.
We know that natives in general can suddenly up and die or get diseased or be damaged. Now, in 2016, there was a previous hedge along there was seriously damaged in those major storms in 2016, and we had to have them all removed.
Okay.
So that's why we, put in the lily pillies. But as I say, you can never be sure. And the other thing is, in the future, you can't just sort of think for the next few years. Any development next door will long outlast any garden plantings that might be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Mr. Patterson, you're the expert in this.
That was it. That was. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you have any, questions in terms of the lifespan of lily pillies, or anything else that might be a bit bigger or something?
Ms. Robinson. No, I mean, how long ago did you put those in, Miss Robinson?
I put them in at the end of 2016.
Mm-hmm. So that's good. Yep. I mean, I think they look very healthy from your submission, and they're not overly long. They're not going to last for 50 or 60 years. So certainly, and their height they'll probably get another metre, a little bit taller, but it's good. That's all I have. I mean, it's an attractive hedge, but as we said, you can't rely on a hedge for a view line. So, but thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson. Ms. Robinson, in reply to what Mr. Patterson has said, is there anything else that you'd like to tell the panel today?
Well, I believe that the submissions and objections, many, covered all the technical points regarding the DCP and the environmental controls, etc. Some of the major things were the floor space ratio, which this seems to be way over the normal amount. The other point I'd like to make is that the semi on the other side, number 344, actually put on a second story level, I believe in 211, by some sort of complying legislation. And they've actually, number one, it cannot be seen from the street. It does not exceed the ridge height. It has 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, a study, a dressing room, and it manages to adhere to the rear setback that's consistent throughout the whole block. So I don't understand why the neighbours, who initially told me they needed an extra bedroom and ensuite upstairs, that I could understand. They've got 3 boys, and they've got 3 bedrooms downstairs. So an extra bedroom makes sense to me. But I don't see why it has to be as lavish as 89 square metres. With 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a study, a dressing room, and some sort of storeroom as well. To me, that is larger than most 2-bedroom apartments. It would be regarded as a pretty luxurious 2-bedroom apartment. And the other point is that it seems to me, from the design and the size, that next door's trying to get maximum size for the money, and to therefore maximise the value of their home. But in so doing, it will damage the heritage value and setting of Verona. And when the time comes, it will definitely affect the saleability and value of this property, Verona.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Now, either of the councillors would like to ask Ms. Robinson a question?
I don't think so. Thank you, Chair. I don't think it's generally the done thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. No, that's
I'm
fine.
fine.
Just giving you the opportunity in case you might want to say something.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Ms. Robinson, for that. Now we hear from the applicant owner for her to speak to her submission and to her application. Rebecca Rowe. Is Rebecca there?
Hello, can you all hear me okay?
Well, I can hear you. Thank you, Rebecca. I certainly can.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and many thanks for allowing me the opportunity to speak in favour of our application for our family home of 342 Arden Street in Coogee. My husband and I have lived in Randwick for the past 20 years and owned and resided in 342 Arden Street since 2010, which we are seeking to renovate to accommodate the needs of our growing family of 3 boys. With property prices on the rise and children staying at home longer these days, we aim to provide enough space for our family to grow over generations. Our family are active community members of the local community. We are 3 Coogee Surf Lifesaving Patrol members, 2 little ones in the making, assistant coaches, team managers of various local junior sporting clubs. We believe the proposed renovation is consistent with the DCP requirements in that the proposed 8-metre rear setback does not create any adverse impact to neighbouring properties. We have thoughtfully designed our renovation to consider the neighbouring properties. We have ensured there is no solar impact or overshadowing to the neighbouring properties. We have ensured privacy is maintained to the adjoining properties, given the high-level highlight windows to the northern boundary do not allow for any overlooking into the neighbours. We have adopted a side setback to the northern boundary more than double that required under the DCP, and the rear setback is less than the adjoining semi-rear setback and consistent with our existing setback. It's also worth noting Council's Heritage Officer has visited the site and supports the proposal. The existing large screen healthy lily-pilly planting along the northern boundary will also assist to limit any visual impact to the north. We therefore respectfully request your approval of the application in line with the Council Officer's recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rowe. Okay, now members of the panel, do you have any questions to ask the applicant owner?
Yes, I do, if I might.
Yes, is that Julie?
Yes, it is indeed.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Rowe, just a couple of points of clarification, if I might. You said that the proposed setback is consistent with the neighbour's setback. Is it consistent with the first floor setback of the neighbours or the ground floor setback?
The ground floor.
Yes.
It's less than the ground floor.
Okay. Is it consistent with the first floor setback of your neighbours?
No.
Okay. So condition 3A was imposed with your original consent, and it was pretty clear about saying that the proposed first floor addition needed to achieve that minimum rear setback, consistent with the adjoining, your adjoining semi-development. Why have you, and that was imposed on the consent when you got approval, why are you needing to go against the very specific condition that was imposed on the consent back then?
Well, you can if you like. Sorry, my husband's just asking if he can help me answer this question. I'm not sure if Jerry would allow us to do that. But our objective is generally to ensure we have enough space to accommodate our family and our elderly parents in the future. So that was our hope and what council had approved. Did you?
Sorry,
is it okay if I can get my husband to answer that question, Julie, as well? He's sitting with me.
Yes, that would be fine. That would be fine.
I understand that our original statement of environmental effect
Yeah.
affects.
Could the husband sit where you're sitting?
Sure,
Because
Sure.
we can.
Sorry, we weren't sure. I know there
It's
was
a bit
only supposed to
difficult
be
to.
one.
Yeah. Thank you so
Yep,
much.
we can
Thank you.
see
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I understand our original statement of environmental effects failed to address the visual impacts on the neighbouring property, and so that's what we sought to do with the modification, is to address the fact that we aren't creating any solar impacts or overlooking of the neighbouring property. So our understanding is we didn't address that appropriately in our previous submission, and that's why we chose to do that in the modification. And the only other thing that we would highlight is that when we look at the control, the setback control of the DCP, it doesn't specifically refer to the second level of a building. It just refers to a minimum setback of 8 metres, and we believe that we comply with that control as it's drafted.
Yes, I understand your points, but the condition 3A was quite specific in talking about the first floor addition and having a minimum rear setback that was consistent with your neighbour. So it is a very clear condition. Okay. So was it that when you were granted approval, did you then consult? What did you do after you granted approval that had the 3A? Did you go and talk to council? Did you consult your architect? What was your process at that point?
So once we received the approval, we talked to council to understand why that condition was applied to our original submission.
Yep.
And as I mentioned, our understanding was that condition related to the fact that we failed to address that provision in the DCP in relation to the setback requirement. So we sought to readdress that with a modification.
Right. Okay. Is the modification for the first floor any different to the original application?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. And sorry, I didn't get the name of the husband. Could you just, for the transcript, please, just tell us your full name? Thank you very much.
Michael Gilligan.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Chair, I would like to ask a question. This is Neil.
Yes, Ms. Wilson.
Hi, good afternoon.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Chair, I beg your pardon.
It's okay. Yes. Right. I do have a question now. Looking at the plans, you have a study and a walk-in wardrobe and an ensuite before that master bedroom, which is based on the plan I see as big as the master bedroom itself that you would like to reinstall on the plan. Is that right? So it's about the same size.
So are you talking about the ensuite?
I'm talking about that whole area after the staircase leading into the master bedroom. That has half of it would be a study, half of it would be for walk-in wardrobe with a little bit of extension into an ensuite. So that whole area, if I just look at the plan with my naked eye without the measurement, it is about as big as your whole bedroom, correct?
Oh, look, I don't have the specific measurements, but you are correct that there is a walk-in robe, there is an ensuite, and there is a dedicated study, which post-COVID is very important.
Right, and there will be high windows there as well.
Correct.
Yeah, there's nothing overlooking from the north, and we look to have that space because we often have family coming from interstate, and we are looking, our boys are only getting bigger, so.
Well, I understand that. You said that several times. The boys are living downstairs and you need a bigger place to accommodate yourself, which is I totally understand and support. And you already built in a family guest room in the front of the house for guests to stay, for family to use, which is also great. I just find it quite, particularly after the council has already made its determination that this master bedroom should be deleted, and you do have room to move it into the space where you plan to have your study, your walking robe, which is also quite excessive for a small semi. And you just come back with the original modification without any amendment. You could, for example, consider turning moving a bit further into the study, or making the bathroom smaller, walk-in wardrobe smaller, so that even if you were still to have all these elements, you have a master bedroom that is not as big as the original application. So it seems to me that you also didn't, while you accepted the determination and not agree with it, you also did not make any effort to also address it, say making the bedroom smaller, or pushing or getting rid of some of the elements before that to accommodate a bedroom. So I'm a bit surprised that from your end also there's no effort and no consideration done.
To respond to that, the reason that, and to be very transparent, the reason there was no concession in or no amendment to our original application is that our understanding was that the original application, that condition was implemented on the basis of the omission of our response within the Statement of Environmental Effects to that specific clause. It wasn't that there wasn't support for the proposed development as the original documents showed, provided that we addressed those provisions. So we didn't approach our modification on the basis that we needed to make concessions to our original position in order to obtain an approval. We approached the modification on the basis that we needed to address the information that was omitted from our original application satisfactorily in order to gain support for our approval. And that is why the drawings are consistent with our original approval, and what we've tried to provide is the additional information that was absent in our original approval to support and justify the proposal as it was submitted. So that was that's the logic and rationale of our approach. It's not about being recalcitrant or ambivalent to the conditions that were provided. It was about addressing what we understood to be an omission to our original submission.
Right. Okay. Thank you for this comment. Because what I could see from the business papers is the condition says clearly, the reason being it is not consistent with the adjoining semi-detached dwelling at your direct neighbor or at number 344. Anyway, well, thank you for this explanation. I understand now.
Thank you. Thank you, applicants, again, for your submissions. Does Ms. Rowe, is there anything else you would like to add to what your husband has said?
No, I think we've basically covered everything we need to say. Thank you for your time and your understanding.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Robinson, is there anything more that you would like to say?
No, I think I covered all the points that, and thank you very much for your time.
And thank you. We've now concluded the second in the list of the public hearing. The objectors and the applicants can now terminate your connection to Microsoft Teams. And when you've done that, the panel will begin to discuss the matter. And also, if I could ask the councillors to also do the same thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
So I
you.
should have